Hey everybody, and welcome back. Right, well, as you can see, I've got the front wheel back in here, so I've got my discs sorted out. One put on the B50, and I just stuck the mudguard on so I could see the effect of having the two alloy mudguards. So what we're going to do, as I said last week, is finish off doing our inlet and our exhaust. Now, as I've been in and out the workshop since I last spoke to you, I keep looking at this, and this gap really annoys me. I thought putting that other one on there, the longer one, would bring it down, but now that it's all in solid and everything, it's solid. It will be solid when it's all fastened at this end. I've got to bring that down there. So I think a little pie cut here will be the least noticeable, and it will give me the biggest drop, because a small cut here, of course, magnified by this length, that'll give it, and then that will allow me to get into the silencer. Now, I had a lot of comments about the exhaust and the inlet. A couple of interesting ones about this. One, actually, I think that's what I'm going to do. But several of the comments were about running that round the other side. I'll be honest with you, I hate it when I see very convoluted exhaust systems. I know they're made to fit in and what have you, but you know, it's all part of the aesthetic of the bike. So I really, this is why I did it this way, because I wanted it here. I want this still to look very Royal Enfield because I like the way it looks. And I mentioned taking it down and across there, but it would have just looked so horrible and busy. And the same with the idea of it going round there. I just think that looks awful. So, and since I'm going to be riding it, I've got to be happy with the way it looks. So all I'm going to do, as I say, is I'll mark the top of this, and I'll mark the very bottom of it, so I know, because if I cut the pie at the wrong angle, it'll end up sticking out or sticking in and not going down. So I've got to make sure that I do it in the plane that just brings that down like that. So doing that, making the silencer, making the airbox, God knows how long that's going to take, but we'll just film what we get done and that's it. Alright? So before we start work, as you may have noticed, I've been riding the other Royal Enfield quite a lot because I keep saying I'm going out to ride it. And I have got, I don't know whether I should say an admirer, but I've certainly got a watcher. Follows me around the sections, watches me through the sections, wanders around making noises. I don't know whether they're complimentary noises or not, but certainly it's there all the time. So I stopped the other day and made this little bit of video. There you go. It's a ruffled grouse, and I've been told, actually in the video at one point you can hear him going look, 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 look in his throat. I was talking to some friends about this, sort of who hunt and are always out in the woods and stuff, and they said that the reason they think he keeps turning up, and I mean he comes within a couple of feet of me all the time, and at first I thought there must have been several did I just say it was a ruffled grouse? Anyway, it's a ruffled grouse, or a ruffed grouse, I can't remember which. I thought maybe there were several of them, but a couple of days ago when I was riding, I actually saw him flying between sections to follow me. So the general consensus is that the exhaust note, which you hear in the video, is this sort of boom, boom, boom. And apparently, as a call, the grouse do that. So they think anyway it's the tone of the exhaust catches his ear and makes him hang around. But anyway, as I say, he follows me from section to section. Okay, let me mark this, make the pie cut. I'll have to set it up again with the back purge so that I can weld that up nicely and then re-polish it out. Okay? Right then, look at this airbox while I've done the pipe, but it's cooling. So, one of the suggestions I had in the comments, you know, I said I actually wanted it to follow this, I didn't want a box in there, was why not build it on that? And I thought about it and I thought, you know what, that's a good idea. You know, why not use this as the back of the airbox? But then I thought, if I make it on there, the idea is that that is going to be welded onto there. Well, that would be a bit clunky, wouldn't it? What we need is another rubber hose. And I thought to myself, you know, if I thought about this, I should have just made that a stub and gone down to my local car suppliers and rummaged through their radiator hoses and found a piece of 1.5 ID radiator hose with like a 45-degree bend. That way I can just have a stub on the airbox. So that's what I'm going to do. And then that annoys me because as I only need the stub there, I needn't have bothered cutting up that piece of bent tube, and that bent tube would have gone in there nicely, wouldn't it? Look, into the silencer. So anyway, that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to try and make the side, well, it's not a front, it's going to be curve. I'm going to make the sides out of one piece and they'll follow this curve. We'll have it come down to about here and it'll fit in under there. And then I thought of a way, the other thing about that is it means I don't have to have brackets. I was wondering about where I was going to put brackets and how I was going to mount it. The box will just be on there. Because don't forget, with things like Bultacos and stuff like that, they have a short mudguard and the back of the airbox is the mudguard. In fact, the Triforter, you may remember I used a piece of mudguard as the back of the oil tank, so it has a short mudguard and then the oil tank forms, so this is going to work well. So I'll make that piece there, I'll make a bottom piece, and then I'll show you what I'm thinking for the top piece because it's got to breathe through there. Right, I'm jumping about a bit, but there's that done. That is much better. I'm happier with that. As I say, we're going to do a bit like that. Okay, let's move on. Right, well, I decided I fancied having a go at the airbox first. So, this is where I wanted to come out to. So it's marked same both sides. So as usual, first thing we do is cardboard template. So that is going to go in there like that. Okay? With a curve, I think, rather than making it square. I think that'll look nicer if it's curved. Now, I just thought I'd mention, because, you know, I use cardboard templates. Everybody you see on the internet uses cardboard templates. That is the third iteration. You know, I don't just make a template and it's right. First one wasn't long enough, then this one was slightly too long, so I had to ease a little bit off each end. So if you're making cardboard templates and it doesn't come out right, that's the way it works. So then, where did we pick that up from? Get off. Next thing we've done is made that. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bend this, I think, round a piece of 1.5 inches. Get that to come round there. Then I think the thing to do is to make the bottom. Now what I've got to do on this is put a lip in it, and I think that the reason I'm going to put the bottom on is it'll hold its shape better, and it'll be a lot easier to put a lip on the inside of this, because that's what the filter is going to sit on. In fact, it's going to be a complete piece with some big holes in for the filter to sit on. Keep moving this around, I hope I'm in view for you. and it's going to be easier to weld that in. Just need to spot that actually without having the mudguard attached to this. So let me go and bend this a bit. Right, so I've bent the front. I also had to sort of bend these in for the various curves. So that is going to go in there. Like that. So the next thing we're going to do is make a bottom, and then we'll make this piece that goes in here to hold the foam. Now I've cut the bottom piece, so that's going to go in there like that. So let me get this welded on there. That's good. Get that welded on there, and then we can see about making this top piece. Right, well, I've got the bottom welded on. Of course, I got a bit carried away there, look, and burnt that little piece off. So we'll have to do a little remedial build up there. That is going to go in there, like that. Now then, it's the end of the day, so it gives me a chance to think about something. I'm having second thoughts about welding it on the mudguard, because it suddenly struck me, you know, I have been known to go arse over tit on occasion, and if I destroy the mudguard, then I'm going to make a new airbox, whereas if I destroy the mudguard, I just get a new mudguard. So what I'm thinking of doing is putting a couple of pieces across here, which will be drilled and tapped, because also I'll make them a bit thicker, so that I can put it on, and I'll put some of that rubber trim on to make that a good seal, and then I can just stick a couple of bolts through from the back, bolt it on. And actually, if I do that, then I can make it with this bit here. On there like that. Because it's going to be a little bit difficult to get a rubber piece on there and everything. I don't know, that's still undecided. Actually, I don't even have to make threaded bits. I could put a back in it. I could use a piece of the other piece of the mudguard, put a back in it, and then when you take the top off, I could just go in and stick a couple of bolts in, couldn't I? That would be even easier. Anyway, I will think on it. See you tomorrow. Alright, so I've welded a back into it, so that will go on there and get bolted. It's actually going to go down there. We'll get bolted to the mudguard, and then, as I say, if I ever damage the mudguard beyond repair, I can just buy another one, unbolt this and bolt it on. So next thing is, that's that fixed, and also of course we can put that on there, and it'll just be a thing that I can take out and put on. That would be no problem. Right, so the next thing we're going to do is put foam in it. So what I have also made is that. Now, as I say, this is just a fraction over an inch choke, and it's going to be breathing through 3 1.5 inch holes. So what we're going to do with that is going to go inside there like that, deep enough down for a layer of foam to go in. Of course, can't find any foam, but the idea is that Once that's in there, so we'll put that in with its layer of foam in, and then the top is going to go on here and it's going to have two sort of lips. So the foam will go in, and then the top, which will mirror that, right, we can put it in this way, it's going to slide in there, go on the top of that, just on the top, and it'll come up. I only do it in two places, sort of on the rail there, and the seat will hold that on, and that will just put a slight crush on the foam, and as you can see, then we've got all this space for air to get in. I mean, the seat will come down slightly, but we'll still get lots of air going in through there. So this is going to be a bit of a pain. One thing I'm not good at welding is down into, I can weld edges fine, but as you can see, sometimes I don't do too well. So anyway, let me get that in there. Alright, well that wasn't too painful. So that's in there, and as I say, it's in deep enough to put the layer of foam on. So I've taken the back wheel out, as you can see, because I want to get that in and bolt it up. Again, as I keep mentioning, if you're going to match things up, don't leave them loose, because you might find they all match up, and then when you tighten things up, they all move just that little bit. So that's going to go on there like that. If you were a little confused about the seat, when I mentioned the seat, the sort of pan of it's going to come over here, but between the top when this is on and the base of the seat, there's going to be 3/4 of an inch, so there'll be lots of airflow. So let me get that drilled, and the holes are big enough I can put a couple of bolts in and hold that on nice and firmly. And then we've got to see, actually I should do that first. Put that in there, mark, put a straight edge on so I can see where that goes down, and cut that. So I'll do that. There's the airbox bolted onto the mudguard, and I've done a cut there, and I have to admit that's better than I expected. I might lengthen this rubber tube a little bit to bring this further along and slightly change the angle. And I've got just a little bit of filing to do. It's touching there but not at the bottom and the top. So let me go and finagle this. Now the hole of course isn't round because we're that shape. But I'm going to start it off with a 1.5 inch hole saw, and then we'll work it out from there. Yes, fine. Right. Okay. Now then, that was noisy enough. I'm going to do this with a what's it. Let me tell you something, people. Although from the logistics, I know most of you are getting towards my age. Getting old's no fun. So what I'm going to do is just ease that out with whatever that is. It's a carbide what's it thingy. We'll take it out with that. So I'll go and put my ear protectors on and I'll switch you off. Alright, there it is, all welded on. Didn't do too badly. A little bit at the back. Actually, somehow there was a gap. But anyway, let's see if we can get this put on. So what we'll do, I think, is we put our hose on first. Like so. That will go in there. That will go on there like thusly. As I say, this will look a lot better when it's got two nice thin hose clamps. See, I'm falling into the vernacular. Jubilee clips. Let's have some nice interesting names. Okay. That is going to go on there like so. I'm going to let you watch all of this so you can see if it's wrong or not. There's one bolt going in. One lock washer. As it happens, the bolts, I tried to get like that, are right underneath two of those holes, so I can get at them pretty easily. I can actually get my finger on them. It's exciting, this, isn't it? 4:15. It's amazing how long this took me to make. But I knew it was. Okay, does the other bolt go in? Where's the hole? I lost the hook. Oh, there it is. Yes! Another little lock washer. I've put them this way around so that they don't stick into the mudguard and possibly foul the tyre when the suspension's up. This one's a little more difficult because I'm trying to do it. No, I've got to come around this side, so I might get in front of you. Because it would have been a lot easier if I'd welded some threaded bosses on inside, but we're not going to tempt fate with my welding. I've got 2 fingers in now and I don't need 2 in there, damn. Can I just get that out? Yes. Come on now. There we go. Da, da, da. Come back round out of your way. Normally, as you know, I would just bolt this on, but I thought, what the hell? We'll let you see that I didn't try it and then find it didn't work and redid it before I videoed it. I'd have to work on the little rubber connector a bit. Cut this end a little bit ragged. Because I cut it longer, but I didn't need it that long, and then I've just cut another little piece, and I cut it freehand on the bandsaw. What I have been doing to get them good is, this is 2-inch ID. I've been shoving a piece of 2-inch tube in there to hold it so it didn't collapse while I cut it. Oh, ho, 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 ho. Here, up! That's not half bad, is it? Not half bad at all. The little seat pan is going to drop down there. Hang on, let's get rid of. the nasty black marks, look. That of course will all be polished up so you won't see any scratches or anything like that. Actually, you can't see it here, but it was right on those black lines. I've amazed myself yet again. As I say, I'll just get the hang of all of this and I'll die. Alright. Today is Tuesday. Friday when I'm at Mike's I'll get some foam, make up the top. As I say, what it should be like is, it'll be a flat, but it'll be like that on both sides, so that when I put it in, it'll go down onto the foam, and then the seat will just hold it on. Because I mean, don't have to hold that on, it's just to hold the foam on. Wow. Now if I can do the silencer half as well as that, won't look too shabby, will it? What I might do with that actually is cut it with a knife, because it's touching wherever it's sticking in there. Alright, that's enough for the day. See you, well, I won't see you tomorrow, but I will see you later in the week. You'll never guess what, I've changed my mind again. I decided that making a top for this with sides on that went over the frame tubes and everything was a bit difficult. Plus, this actually fits under the frame tubes a little bit, so the top would have had to have been convoluted. So I made up a little tap boss, welded it on there, and I had this picture in my mind that somewhere there was a plastic bag with air filter foam in it. I could just picture it. So I searched the entire workshop and I was right. I did have some. So that, you see, is going to go in there. I haven't cut it perfectly. I might cut it, but that's fine. So now I'm just going to make a top that goes on there with a bolt through the middle, screw it on, and we're all done. And as I say, we're going to have 3 big holes in there again, so there'll be lots of air going through, and there'll be lots of air that can come up round it and come through the back down by the mudguard. You'll see when it's on. So I'm showing you this now while the top piece I've rough cut is cooling down, because we're annealing it. So let's have a look at that. Right, so there's the piece. That's the outline at the top of the box. You may notice it didn't come out exactly symmetrical, but anyway. So all I've got to do now is fold all this up. I might just put a couple of little cuts in there to make it easier to do. But we're going to start off doing it with the pliers. Let me open this out so I don't take it out of frame. So we're going to start off just simply doing that. And that'll get me a good start, an edge to put onto the dolly. So let me go around and get that started. Right, I'm going to use this one to start with because it's the one I've got with the most edge. Then I'll be putting a rounded one in to do this. But here, you see, I can just put that on. And I can start getting it over straight. So again, I won't really fold that over. So let me just press on with that and I'll bring you back when we're further along. And there we have the finished article. So that goes in there like so. That goes on there like so. And there we are. Not too shabby. Alright, let's go and put it on the bike. Funny how your mind works, isn't it? I was just thinking, oh, I hope with this lip and everything this will still fit in here, which it does nicely, but then I thought to myself, wait a minute, I've got the foam in, I can't get at the bolts to bolt it on the back, so let me get it bolted on the back. Yes, just as I thought, because of the lip and the slightly larger size, that won't go on like that. So I've just, it's nothing awkward really, I just got to drop the mudguard a little bit. Let me do that. Yeah, so I had to drop the mudguard off, but now I can put that on and then just pick it back up. Alright, so let me do that. So there it is, back on, all finished. Of course I put the mudguard and everything on and realised I hadn't put the rubber boot on. So I take it back off and do it again. But there we go with our foam. That'll get oiled up, and as I say, there's 3 1.5 inch holes there feeding a 1 inch hole here. So there should be plenty of flow in there to keep this full of air for that to breathe from. As I say, I'll maybe cut a new piece of that, tidy it up. But that is pretty closely tucked in. I don't think that's going to be a problem. So now we can have a look at the silencer. Yeah, it's Thursday. I was going to work all day, but I've got 3 people coming to ride, so we'll be out in the woods. But I'll do a bit more on Saturday anyway. We'll see what we get done. Alright, let's see what we can do today. I've got a couple of hours. Had a good ride on Thursday afternoon. Actually, we were out for nearly 5 hours. My little feathered friend followed us all the way around. Okay, so all other considerations about putting it on the other side and all weirdo things, this is where I want it. This is the look I want. The silencer on the other one is 8 inches long, but it does start a little bit further back. So I reckon I can get, we're going to have to cut the mudguard a little bit. We're going to keep it right low down here. We're going to be fine. I can get almost 8 inches actually, and then it'll just, the actual exit pipe will come around here. So what we're going to do is we're going to, I've been thinking of lots of different ways to do it. In the end I decided on the usual perforated pipe. I was thinking of making a detachable end cap so we could pack it and all sorts of stuff, but don't need to. Mine is fine. The other Enfield is fine. So, but what we want is, I want the silencer, as I say, down here. We want about 4 inches. So, see, that's to about there. So what we're going to do is, the body's going to be the same as normal. It's going to be like a, an oval shape. We'll finagle this end a little bit. Here, I'm going to go mad with my little forming hammers. And instead of it just going into an end, I think I'm going to try and form an end for it. So it's like a cap end. We'll see. It might not work out. But what we're going to do is we're going to build it from the inside out. First thing we're going to make is the piece that slides on that and clamps up. Because this is 1.5 inches and we're going to use 1.5 inches inside. So it'll weld onto this piece and we'll mill some slots into it, it'll clamp onto there. So then I want it to come down and bend. So I've bought some 1.5 inch alloy tube. We're going to put it in the tube bender and put a bend in, so we'll measure that angle. And then we'll have it go to, we'll make it about this long, as I say. This end we're going to squish up slightly and it won't change the surface area. If I squeezed it up until it touched, yes, but if we just make this oval, which is all we're talking about here, although we're losing width, we're going to gain in height. So, alright, so let's make that end up first. Right, so I have some alloy tube here. which is just actually that's about the right size. So what I'm going to do is just take the slightest cut off the inside just to make that a sliding fit, and I might take a little off the OD because it's a bit thick walled, that. But anyway, let's do that. As I say, I'm just gonna, what have we got this set on? Oh, that's too slow. That there, that on that. And I get my head in the way again. Right, where are we going? Forward. Forward. See, this is why I don't show machining. Even to me who does machining, I find this boring to watch. So what we'll do, we'll switch that off and we'll just see if this will fit in the end, and if it does, as you can see, that's not round, it's not touching all the way around, which is probably why it's a little bit better. So let me take a little bit more off here and take a little off there, and then we're going to cut it off at 1.5 inches. Right, I just had a little thought about this. So what I've actually done is only gone in 3/4 of an inch, which is as much as I want to go onto the stainless tube. So that wants to be a reasonable fit on that, and that'll clamp up. But the alloy tube that goes in here is going to be welded on, so I'd like that to be a nice tight fit. It'll just make it easier to weld it up. So that's fine for that. That goes in 3/4 of an inch. So let me square the end of this off, and then we'll cut this off at 1.5 inches, which gives me, as I say, 3/4 of an inch of that to go in, and then 3/4 of an inch to go onto the piece of alloy tube that's going to the centre, and it'll make it easier to weld it up. And then I'll take a little bit off that OD. Right, I've done a little bit of lathe work, bored that out. So it's gone in 3/4 of an inch to make it a sliding fit on the stainless steel, but the other bit is just a tight fit, so for when I weld it up. But it struck me that I was just going to cut it off, part it off. I thought it would be easier to do the slots before I did that, so that's what we're going to do. Alright, see if I can do this without getting in the way. So I'm just going to slot it, I don't know what size that is, 3/16, something like that, up to there, 3/4 of an inch. So I'll go around, do some more, clean the edges off, and then I'll part that off, and that bit's done. Well, I don't know if I sanded a little bit off there, or if these pieces of stainless steel I got from different suppliers are slightly small, but it's a bit looser than I thought it was going to be. But that's fine, it's up against the stop. When the nice big clamp goes on there, that'll be good. So that's going to go on there, and the that's going to go in there, you see, and get welded in. Right, so now what we want to know is what angle, hang on, what angle we want that to be. Okay, so let's go and get the magic angle thing. Right, well, here's the magic angle thingy. So we want this to be, where are we? What do I want? How do I want this? Actually, maybe I should put that on there. Maybe a bit tighter that way. Too tight that way. That to be level. That looks good. And that is reading 146.3, but we don't want 146.3, do we? We just want that kicking up a little bit. So let's say 147 off 190. Off 180. Oh God, Michael. 147 off 180 is 33, right? So let's go and do a 33-degree bend. And we want it to be about it's going to go up into there. Let's cut 12 inches. Though it would be easier to bend this before I cut it. Otherwise it might be a bit, actually if it was 12 inch it would have been fine, but anyway. 33 degrees, remember? Keep your fingers crossed I got it right this time. Oh, everything's in the way. Clonk, bang, crash. That's 20. Okay, how much is that going to spring back? Back to there, so one more should do it. Doesn't have to be exactly exact. That's pretty good, I think. I'm knocking everything about today, aren't I? So there we go. So obviously we're going to cut it off up here, but let's go and see what that looks like. So I've got you on about eye level with this. So I think that looks pretty good. Hang on, let me get my head in the way for a minute. Right. I think that looks pretty good. Okay, so gotta cut it here, and then we can I'm going to cut a piece of this out. as well. Hang on, let me think about this before I start cutting things and then regret it. Right, I think we might just have fallen lucky here, because I was measuring sort of the tyre to here and 1.5 inches won't go in, but because of the curve of the tyre I've actually got 1/4 inch there. If I turn it before I get, the wall sticks out a bit more than the tread does. So if I have a curve there, come along and a curve just to take it out, then I think that'll go through there. But I do have a cut piece out of here, because I'm going to bring the silencer right back to here to maximise the length I can get. So let me do some marking and some measuring, or let me do some measuring and then some marking. Maybe that's where I keep going wrong. Now I marked up the mudguard, but I thought that it might be a bit, God, that is wonky. How did I manage to put that on like that? But it might be easier to fit this first and then I can mark the mud. Well, I've got the mudguard marked, but I can. So I think that needs to be cut about there. Alright, and then when it's at the right angle, that brings it up here. Then we're going to put a bend about here to get it round that. Total length is going to be just a little bit less than that. So let me go and bend this way. And then we'll cut that off, see if it'll fit. Well, that's almost dead right. When I put this bend in, I put it in a little bit too far here. And I was going to just cut a piece out the centre to bring it around. And I thought, no, I wonder if I can shuffle this round in the tube bender and get it to start bending. Well, it seems to be working fine, and then it's crumpled here. Look. But I'm not worried about that. I might cut that piece out and put a little better piece in there. But right at the tailpipe end, I'm not worried about that. Don't forget, we were going to squish this up a bit anyway. So that does go on. And there's a good 1/4 inch. I'll put a little bit more, a little bit of a thing on to point it out that way. That's nicely behind my leg. That's going to get our exhaust right in the silencer part, right in there. And this, so we're going to be able to bring the silencer right back to, excuse me. Well, the wheel's going to come up to about there. It's a good 7 inches of, so we're only just 1 inch shorter than the other one. That's going to be fine. I can make this, well, I can just make this end a square, or I could curve it. But here, as I say, rather than having a square end or having that go in a square end there, I think I'm going to try and make this look a little nicer. Of course, I'm doing all this and we still don't know for certain if, when we got the silencer box part on here, we can get this off. I think we can. And if not, we throw it in the bin and make another one. Right, I'm going to go and grab a sandwich and then I'll do a little bit more. I can fit some more in this afternoon. Right, I've taken the rear suspension units off, and this is basically as high as it can go. I mean, it can go maybe another inch. Hang on. Right, we'll not spoil the ship for a heap of the tar. So that's as far up as that can possibly go. I've still got a good 1/8 of an inch there, so that's fine. But the reason I did this was to see where I could take the silencer to, right? If the silencer is going to be sticking out about a half an inch, well, it's not, that's about as far as I can take it. And there, as I say, look, it's about 7 inch, 6.5, 7 inches, so that's not too bad. Right, so that's all good. Just thought I'd show you this. It sort of goes way back, eye to eye, from there to there, 14 inches. Because it's difficult to sort of sometimes visualize how much travel you've got because things are turning in arcs and so on. So as I say, that's 14 inches long, totally compressed. That's 3.5 inches. So that's, when this is right up against the stop, this is 10.5 inches long, right? That is 9.5 inches. So in other words, that will come up further than the complete compression of the rear suspension unit. So if any of you would at any point worried about that, don't. Alright, so that's going to be about like that. See, it's curved over the top and the bottom. Let me hold it like that. That's going to be about like that. And then that is going to go, let's say, with a sort of cone, and the same at this end. I can do a little cone and still miss the tyre. Or if I made it straight, that would be fine. That's missing the tyre as well. I could make it, be easy to make it straight, that end. But a little cone there. Okay. So, shall I make this end flat? Right in the centre. See, that's just like that. That's nicely tucked in. Yeah, that's lovely. Let me make a flat end so that it just holds it in place, and then I can see what I can do with this front end. You know, I don't want to overcomplicate things and make it too difficult to fabricate. The Enfield one is flat at both ends. I'm just looking at that. I could take that right up to there. Like that. Maybe just take a little bit off the bottom, because I know you people worry about these things. See, and that'll still come out. Let me go and try that. Right, if I put it on like that, this is a bit flimsy to make. That clears everything. That'll come out. And I can make this longer. So I think that is about it. That's what I'm going to do. See, I'll make this piece a bit longer. Tidy this end up. So anyway, I haven't got any time to do it this week, so that's what we start with next week. Open these up, cut a couple of them out. Get that all put on there. And then we've got to think about a bracket for this end. And when I say we've got to think about it, we do have to think about it as well, because say for instance we put the bracket here with the mounting on the exhaust on the inside of the bracket, well, that would mean we couldn't really do much this way, whereas if the mounting was on the outside, or if it was on this side, it might give us more room. We could then turn this a little bit, jiggle it, whatever. Anyway, lots of things for me to think about. So that's it for this week. Until next week, you stay safe and enjoy yourselves.